people of the internet, it's a me, it's a that FKing guy, back with another Total Cult Zone presents. People seem to really enjoy the last series of shows, really glad about that. This show, not as long, thankfully. The three-parter on Lindsay Lohan with Nona was a challenge to do and has definitely wetted my whistle and tickled my pickle to do more deep dives into characters and movies. I'm currently working on the show now that may take a bit of time to be made, not just because of the joy of COVID either. It's a show about one movie that will involve many different guests. A movie that probably doesn't deserve such treatment, but well, that's just me, isn't it, really? Speaking of my hyper-fixated attention deficit adult mind, I wanted to do a show to talk about a movie I saw last week, but it's one of those films everyone is going to be talking about, and I'm incapable of doing just one simple thing. I mean, why just talk about one film when you can do about two? Oh wait, three films. Oh, no. Four films, and I guess the title of the episode will give it away, unless you're one of those special people that just subscribes to this podcast and doesn't care what the show is about. If so, thank you, please seek help. This week, Total Cult Zone presents Maika Monroe is FKing Great. Now, this isn't a thing where I just find a person attractive, and because they're attractive, all the films they're in are great. I'm sure she'd be glad to know that she could happily fart in bed with me, and I wouldn't kick her out of it. But it's more than that. After watching Longlegs, which is this week's main event, I remembered all the roles she's played in the past, and absolutely loving the films. So today, all the films I'm covering briefly will feature her. And well, she's fucking great. While she's been in a bunch of stuff, she's definitely considered a quote-unquote scream queen, as the highest profile films she's been in are in that genre. The main film I'm sure you've all seen plastered everywhere the last few weeks, Longlegs, it's considered the scariest movie ever. We'll get to that later. Kind of hard to avoid that one, but let's take it back to the start of her greatness. Another film I'm sure has been seen by many, if not all horror fans, It Follows.
I used to daydream about being old enough to go on dates. I had this image of myself holding hands with a really cute guy, driving along some pretty road. It was never about going anywhere, really. Just having some sort of freedom, I guess.
Jay, you awake?
What are you doing?
You're not gonna believe me, and I need you to remember what I'm saying. This thing, it's gonna follow you. Somebody gave it to me, and I passed it to you.
So It Follows, 2014 David Robert Mitchell supernatural horror flick about the dangers of promiscuous sex. Maika Monroe plays a teen girl who, after having a bit of the old in-out in a car park, gets told she's now going to be followed forever by an entity that changes form and will never go up chasing her. No matter where she goes or what she does, this thing will always be following her. Well, unless she has sex again and passes the curse on, of course. But even then, if the person she has sex with gets caught and bent up like a pretzel or fucked to death by their own mum, spoilers, it will come back for her, meaning she has to go through the whole process again. Like the entity itself, the movie is very slow moving, giving off vibes of the original zombie flicks from Romero. Sure, you can outrun the monster, but it will just keep on coming. In fact, I guess it goes a bit like the Terminator, you know, it's out there. It can't be bargained with. It can't be reasoned with. It doesn't feel pity or remorse or fear. It doesn't even say hello to you. And it absolutely will not stop, ever, until you are dead. You know, you can just replace Arnie with an old naked lady at this point. There's vibes of John Carpenter in there as well, which is always nice. Not just a simplified symphony music score. It's got a lo-fi feel, making the best of a low budget. The idea that it's not in any specific time or place, with fashion elements of the environment being a mishmash of old and new. There's not really many mobile phones in there. There is like a weird clamshell phone e-reader thing, which is something I don't think ever really took off, but it gives it an outer worldly but down to earth and realistic feel, with just that one specific element to throw the story out of whack ever so slightly. The big evil of the film is the ever-changing form that doesn't really have a specific look in the traditional movie monster role. Each incarnation varies from the grotesque and weird to one of their best mates or their mum. As such, you're always looking around, and the cinematography doesn't help ease that paranoia of who's the evil, who's the one that's stalking them, because the cameras scan every scene, leaving gaps in shot just big enough for you to think, yeah, that one, that's the monster, that's the one that's stalking them. It's a device that's used really well, and a real killer if you suffer from anxiety and paranoia, which is a general theme with these films, really. It's definitely a nightmare scenario if there was an STD you get when you fuck someone and you just end up being chased by weird tall guys and old naked ladies all day and night. Nobody would ever have sex for fun again. So it follows one film I think pretty much everyone's watched already. It's a great film that's been falling out of favour a little bit with folks of late. All the monsters so slow. Oh, is it an allegory for teen sex and STDs? Is it? Oh, that's smart. Why don't they just go to the other side of the country? He walks so slow, Why don't they just shoot it and buy a really big gun and just shoot the pieces, blow it up? It's a victim of its own success, really. Low budget movies that do good and get all the praise for inventiveness, using moods over flashy substance, no special effects, or very little special effects. There's no spectacular kills and a cool monster that you can merchandise. Those films undoubtedly fall foul of a certain crowd who want more with their horror. I'm not going to single out any group here, but I have got a little bit of advice for those guys. How about you fuck off back to Shudder and watch a film with a scary nun in it? Go on, fuck off and watch a Conjuring. Would you like it when it goes quiet, quiet, bang, dear?
Oh, it made me do a little wee-wee in my pants when it made the loud noise. I wasn't expecting the loud noise, even though it happens every 5 minutes.
Anyway, if there is one thing I will pull this film up on, it's the male gaziness of it all. Some scenes are a little bit too exploitative. I know there is an element of explosive post-puberty sexuality and overclocked libidos, but there's a few too many up the arse shots. And this is from a guy who likes arse shots. Just there's a time and place for them. 2014 was a fine year for Maika though, as it was the same year our next film got released.
Can I help you?
Mrs. Peterson?
Yes?
My name is David. Mrs. Peterson, I knew your son, Caleb. I was with him when he died. That's me.
You know Caleb?
Yes, ma'am. We were pretty close.
Yes, ma'am.
He wanted me to tell you that he loved you. Thanks. He asked me to check on y'all. And so, we're gonna be good friends.
If there was ever a film that was betrayed by its trailer, it's The Guest. Probably the most accessible movie on the list today, as it's a pretty traditional setup. A stranger with a mysterious past arrives at the house of a family in a small town and helps them out. So for this film, spoilers, kinda. I think my joy of this film was going into it not knowing what the hell it was when I bought it. I'm going to have to dig a little deeper to actually explain the movie and sell it to you. It's not full on end of the movie twist, but if I watched the trailer, I'd have known what was going on and knew far too much, and that would have ruined it. So I feel a little bit conflicted here, having to explain it. But again, if I don't, it doesn't really sell the movie just saying that opening line. I didn't actually know this film existed until I saw a whole stack of them in Poundland. Yes, Americans, we have a shop called Poundland. I grabbed a copy of it and it sat on my shelf for a few months till I stuck it on one evening expecting some schlocky junk action film. Because, you know, that's what it looked like, really. I didn't really notice at the time that it was written and directed by the guys responsible for Who's Next and the remake of the previously mentioned Blair Witch, although the new version of that film should have been called Twats in the Woods with GoPros. Quick tangent, the OG Blair Witch was lightning in a bottle. You had to be there to fully appreciate it, and with all the advances in tech these days, I doubt you could ever replicate that film's feel or success because of the whole internet virality of it all. Closest to that was probably Bobcat Goldthwait's Willow Creek in terms of capturing that the Blair Witchiness of the found footage genre. And that's a film I definitely want to cover at some point. Looking at Rob Jones for that one. Hello, Rob. We're covering Willow Creek at some point. But I digress. Back to the guest. The concept of it all is that it's a horror movie, but it's paced as a thriller, which changes the dynamic ever so slightly. The titular guest is David, played by Dan Stevens, who also could fart in bed and I wouldn't kick him out of it. And the family are the Petersons, a 2.4 children household in the literal sense, as one son went off to war and not all of him came back. What did come back is David, who was friends with the now deceased son Caleb. Or is he Caleb himself, or is he the son? Yeah, it's never fully explained what happened, but super secret army soldier experiments were done, and David is the result of that. And he's a little bit more than your regular G.I. Joe. It's a good thing for the family, as he's sworn to protect them because of a pledge he made to their son, who he served with. The family includes the parents and son and daughter, Luke and Anna, who's played by Maika Monroe. He helps the family out, whether they like it or not, by carrying out very violent acts on those who wrong them. It's quite early on we find out what he's capable of. The son is being bullied. David follows the bullies to a bar and wipes them out in a couple of seconds in a very violent bar fight. It's great. Anna has fallen in with the wrong crowd, so some heads get blown off, as they do. The dad is being overlooked for a promotion, and well, you get the idea. They don't know this is happening, but you know, all these coincidences happening at once, they do start putting the pieces together, although some of the family take a little bit more convincing. It's very much a variant on Takeshi Miike's Visitor Q film. The family is dysfunctional and broken, and the guest, as messed up as they are and as messed up as their methods are, does bring them together by carrying out, you know, a few murders and some maimings. Dan Stevens in the role is just so likeable though, and you do find yourself cheering him on, because at the start he is just beating up bullies. But someone must know about this super soldier gone AWOL, and they do. In steps Lance Reddick's Major Carver, who gets wind of his existence and vows to track him down. And track him down he does for a third act that drops the thriller concept and takes pages straight out of every horror movie playbook known to man. Again, like It Follows, a very synth-heavy soundtrack, but less of the Carpenter wallpaper soundtrack that's just there. This is full tracks by a whole bunch of musical artists that you should be adding to your playlists. They're all great. The visuals for the finale especially dip into the 80s neon-soaked landscape that everyone thinks the 80s was like. It really wasn't. It was a dirty orange and drab wood brown panels. The 80s wasn't that bright. Don't romanticise it. It was great, don't get me wrong, but it wasn't neon soaked ever. But the guest, bunch of fun that is very flap A into slot B story wise, but it does it so well it's forgivable. Even with its spin on it, the pacing, it should be enjoyed by everybody. Why it never got a bigger release or a sequel remains a mystery to me. It's great.
Și tu?
You don't speak Romanian.
You don't like?
No, it's lovely. There's this guy that lives across the street, and he's always looking over here.
Looking over here, how?
Every time I look over there, he's just staring right at me.
Hello, darling. Any reason in particular you're standing in the dark?
So we're leaving 2014 way behind and fast forwarding to 2022's Watcher. Not The Watcher, which is a TV show that came out about the same time, just Watcher. Again, the storyline is a staple of horror movies story-wise. A couple go to live in a new house and things get weird. Except the house is a stunning apartment in a very busy European city, and they're surrounded by people who aren't out to kill them. They're all lovely people. The worst you get is Elvis the cat, who goes missing all the time. In this film, you follow Maika Monroe's Julia, who has moved to Romania with her Romanian-American husband Francis, who snagged a big marketing job in the capital city of Bucharest. It's actually a simple fish-out-of-water story where Julia is trying to fit into a city that is alien to her, as she is just grasping the basics of the language, much like I grasp the basics of English all the time. She wanders around the city by day, which is both beautiful and drab in equal measures. The architecture is stunning, all the surroundings are amazing, but the buildings are grey and the weather is grey, and there's no effort to make it look any nicer. And any city, no matter how stunning, will always look its worst when it's constantly raining. In this, you do get the sensation that it's always damp in some way. At night, she retreats to the comfort of her home, a place that she is spending more and more time alone in, as she has no job to go to, doesn't know the language, doesn't have any friends, and her husband is working increasingly longer hours. This lovely old apartment with its high ceilings and massive windows is overlooked by another block of apartments with equally massive windows. It's a peeper's paradise. And that's where the watching starts. But who's watching who? See, Julia's looking out the window when it gets dark, looking across the road at all these people doing their things, going about their daily lives. One specific apartment, though, across the courtyard, has a shadow in the window that may or not be watching back. And this is where that paranoia and anxiety come back to play over your head. This is definitely picking up where Hitchcock left off with Rear Window. Is the voyeur seeing things they think they're seeing? Is the person they accuse of stalking them actually not interested in them at all? And until they feel that they're being stalked themselves and they get interested, and is it reciprocated? You know, is the creepy looking guy from across the way actually a creepy guy, or is it all just projections stemming from insecurity and loneliness? For a film that's called Watching, and seeing how a lot of the films in this episode rely on the idea of things moving up the corner of your eye and off in the distance, this movie really works because of its sound mixing. There's a whole load of creaks and bumps in the background that give this film a sense of loneliness and isolation. Anna walks around the giant apartment like a ghost at times, and as none of the Romanian language is subtitled when her boyfriend and colleagues come over for dinner, or they go out for a party or a work function, you get the feeling that she's not there. This film is not for everybody. It's got a slow pace to it. There is an added element of a serial killer on the loose in the city, but it's a background idea for the most part. It pops up as part of a backstory. It doesn't really lead to gruesome kills on screen. And yeah, I'm not going to spoil this one at all. I think I've done a good job of that. Of all the films of today's show, I think this is the one that's been the most overlooked, the one I would most recommend for everyone to try and find a copy of, watch, enjoy. It is my favourite of the four I'm doing today. I like them all, but this one takes gold for me. Quality stuff from writers and director Chloe Okunu and Zach Ford. Yeah, top marks. And with that bombshell, it's main event time.
Is it scary being a lady FBI agent?
Yeah.
Take a nice long look. A letter was left with the bodies. Signed with one word.
In the red corner, we have the young-ish upstart Maika Monroe playing Agent Lee Harker. And in the blue corner, that crazy old bastard, Nic Longlegs Cage. So, yeah, Oz Perkins did good. It's enjoyable. Scariest movie ever, though? I don't see that. It's good, but there are much scarier out there. And no doubt with that tagged onto the press for the movie, it will get raked over the coals by folks who want to scare every 3.2 minutes. And a lot more blood and guts. And generally a lot more things happening. It's a slow burning film, and I think it's been misrepresented by the trailers and the press of it all. The plot with Agent Lee Harker, the young FBI agent tasked with helping out on a case of a serial killer who has a quite inventive method of killing people. That is, he's not actually present when the murders happen. Yes, so what gives? She has an seemingly uncanny, almost psychic ability. So she's brought in by Agent Carter as a fresh set of eyes to solve the riddle of Longlegs. You know, elements of actual serial killers are used and embellished with satanic rituals that were most likely considered par for the course with every murder back in the 70s, 80s, 90s, 10s. Now, you get the idea. So how does Longlegs kill? And why is he called Longlegs? One of these things is answered at the end of the movie, which I'm not going to spoil. I mean, there's plenty of podcasts probably doing this already. There's no point in me going into great detail about what happens, and I'll just get to what I think of it, really. Nic Cage delivers a top-tier Cage performance, which will leave you wondering the age-old question of, is Nic Cage a good actor or a bad actor? And that will either make or ruin this film for you, depending on how you feel about him. And while he will steal the show, either way, Maika does do the heavy lifting with a slightly awkward, stoic character that gives the film that slightly odd, unsettling feeling the whole way through it. There are some comedy elements here and there. It's got a lot of the elements which made it follows great as well. You got the cinematography with the wide shots, leaving a lot of space for things to pop out at you. Subtle movements in the background are expected and don't happen. Or do they? You spend all your time watching these empty spaces because you expect something to be there. You kind of neglect the rest of the shot. And there's a lot going on in them. So a second watch will be needed. And it'll get one. Because I really enjoyed it. There's a lot I definitely miss. And we'll probably crack it out for another Maika Monroe film marathon very soon. Because I'd much rather spend an entire evening watching her films than I would Nic Cage. Because as good as he can be a bit much.
Nicolas Cage, good or bad? A challenge, certainly, but not unsolvable. Because all actors have distinct values, which I use to find answers.
Abed, how much Nicolas Cage did you...
Enough! I watched enough to find the answers. Because this is my reality. This is how I learned to be. And my being doesn't allow for Nicolas freaking Cage, okay? Oh, yeah! Oh, yeah! Oh! Oh! Oh, I'm a cat. I'm a sexy cat. Oh, 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 oh.
And that's all, folks. It's a short show for an actor that probably deserves a lot more, and I will probably do more of her films eventually because, yeah, she's great. Hopefully I've mentioned at least one movie you've not seen and you can go on and enjoy. If not, let me know a movie you think I'd like or you think is better than these. Except scary nun movies. Total Cult Zone for all my stuff. I recently killed off all my social media and Patreon and started something new on Substack. It actually explains why I keep killing off my social media and why I podcast. Whether it'll still be up when you listen to this in a few years' time, I don't know, but it's why I have a website. Once again, totalcultzone.com. All my stuff is on there. See you later. Don't let COVID catch you.
Because I love you. My heart